All righty. Appointment of alternates. We look like we have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. We have any alternates here? I think everyone's a full member, right? Yeah, okay. All right. So I'm not going to worry about alternates. We do have a quorum. Roll call of members present. Michael Proto, chair.
Kimberly Queen and vice chair.
Kate Stevens, member.
Tony Turecki, clerk.
Kevin Lynch, selectman's rep.
Josh Smith, member.
James Buffetti, member.
So the first item this evening would be public input on non-agenda items not on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there anybody from the public who has anything to add for non-agenda public items? I recognize Mr. Charbonneau, so.
Hi, my name is Rick Charbonneau. I live at 401 Charles Bancroft Highway. And the last time we were in, we discussed Mel's Funway Park and what we think of deficiencies there. Board asked me to submit what I thought was some of the things that happened there. I'd like to do that and then just go through them quickly. As I have done with the Board of Selectmen's meeting, I would request respectfully that Mr. Lynch recuse himself from any deliberations or any closed door meetings on this case, being the past for any inspector, because there are some of these things that are on here created while the time that he was an inspector. So the first thing.
You want to sit here, Rick?
No. This year when we sat through all the.
Excuse me.
She can't hear what you're saying.
You have to, yeah. You can't hear you.
Sorry.
So when we this spring, when we went through all the planning board process with Mel's Funway Park, there were things that were agreed to, conditions on their plan. One of them was to enclose the Carnage pond. They operated this year and Carnage was never closed in. Now, they'll make the claim that they didn't have to do it because it was part of the bumper boats. Well, when that plan was presented, there was buildings that weren't on the site plan that were used for Spooky World that got approved by this board at that time, that Mr. Lynch issued them building permits for, and there were no, they were not on the site plan. And I think when the board went out there and did their site walk, they saw how permanent the temporary structures were out there. So in saying that the Carnage didn't have to be closed in because they didn't have to do it until the bumper boats were approved or ready to operate, is a little stretch as far as I'm concerned, because that was part of the whole plan. So Carnage got to operate this year without being enclosed. Secondly, they were supposed to put up a fence at the end of Colby Road. They had this old junky fence that they took down, and then they have shown on the site plan that fence was going to be reinstalled at a new fence. That never happened. The siding on the pavilion, they convinced the building inspector, the temporary building inspector that we had at the time, to allow texture 111. That does not meet, so they've enclosed the pavilions, but it does not meet the rendering that they submitted to this board. They got a cease and desist. Town council advised that because the building inspector let them have it, that gave them the building inspector with texture 111, they removed the cease and desist. we're gonna find out. I mean, that's something we're gonna challenge at the zoning board. But it's just another thing that it's clearly a note on the plan. They knew it. They changed it. The sidewalk was supposed to be built from Colby Road down. They got it half built, but they never completed. Again, when they first opened this year, there were people walking down 3A. They were parking everywhere. So they could have finished it. They had plenty of time, but they chose not to finish it. Again, they're going to make the claim that they didn't have to do that because it's part of the bumper boats. Well, that's a good excuse because the bumper boats didn't get done. But they don't do what they say they're going to do or what's shown on the plan. So when they first opened this year, they were parking cars along 3A. They were coming in from their parking lot and they were parking right up within a few feet of 3A on their grass. I brought it to the code enforcement officer. They spoke to him. They stopped parking there. They were parking around the Laserplex. Their site plan clearly doesn't show them parking around the Laserplex or parking on any grass in front of their parking lot between 3A and their parking lot. They removed, 35 spaces or something they said that they didn't need. So they didn't need the spaces, but then again, they park on the grass. So I'm not sure what business can do that constantly and get away with it, but they're getting away with it. There's items here that weren't on the original site plan or on the site plan that we got approved the last time. So now when they stopped parking on the grass around Laserplex and whatnot, they started parking on another lot that they own, which is lot 443, map 20. There's no site plan approval on that. There's nothing. They just decided that they were going to go out there and start parking cars out there. Whether it's employees or patrons, I have no idea, but they're doing it. If you remember, they didn't want to build a sidewalk any more than Colby Road down to their entrance where they crossed in when we were in discussions with them. So now they park down there. There's no sidewalk. People are walking down the side of 3A at night. They're crossing 3A. Again, they weren't going to do that, but they are. They're up until midnight. They're blowing off horns. There's like an explosion. I don't know if it's a cannon, an air cannon, or what it is, but it's very loud. I know we don't have a noise ordinance, but you know, when I built Passaconaway, I had neighbors that were concerned with things like a Coke machine lit up at night that they didn't want to be able to see that. I had to agree not to put that Coke machine out there. And here we are. These guys are they're blowing off these bombs. It wakes you up. It wakes me up. I live a half a mile away. Okay. I don't know how they're getting away with it, but they're doing it. And they don't have a right to do it as far as I'm concerned because it's a nuisance. So I think the board needs to do something about it because it's a nuisance. There's vending trucks. There's box trailers. There's things parked out there that clearly aren't on the site plan. And they're doing it. What they do is they come in and see this board. They tell you guys what you want to hear so that they get approval, and then they do what they want. And I think the board needs to look into it. Maybe you need to revoke this site plan to get them to do things the way they should. I don't know. But I think after the site walk last fall, when you went out there, and there's clearly way more haunts than what it was shown, clearly nothing matched the site plan that was approved prior to this last one. And everybody agreed to let them go again. And here we are. They're back doing what they want. Someone needs to enforce it. I know we didn't have a building inspector. We have the town administrator is the code enforcement officer right now. Something has to happen here. I mean, I don't think I should have to keep fighting these guys and paying attorneys, but I'm gonna, till we get it right. And I just wish you would take all this stuff into consideration when they supposedly come back in. So, that's all I got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And just to follow up to that, I did receive an email today, and I think I'm going to put it on record tonight. It is from attorney Andy Perlman, who represents Mel's Funway. It was addressed to Jay, and this is what it says. Following up on our call this morning, I appreciate that the board takes in public comment at the beginning of every hearing, but I think it is entirely inappropriate for the board or the public to take up any discussion of Mel's without a formal hearing being noticed, and most importantly, without being in attendance. As the town well knows, Mel's is contentious and subject to litigation. This isn't benign public commentary, such as an upcoming kids soccer tournament at Dara Pond or use of the Merrimack River boat ramp. We're soon coming in with an amended site plan application for Mel's. If the board is predisposed against us as a result of repeated public comments, Mel's due process rights for a fair hearing have been violated. I'm not saying that this is the case, but am only pointing out the consequences of not conducting proper public hearings, especially given the current legal posture against Mel's. On behalf of Mel's Funway Park LLC, I respectfully request that the board, request that should public comment start to raise concerns about the park, that the board politely decline the discussion until a formal application is before the board. Please call with any questions. Thank you, Andrew A. Perlman, Premium Perlman, PA. I'm just putting that out there. This was sent, it looks like it was sent today. So I just wanted to, make sure that that's on the record.
And that's in response that my attorney called Andy today because we have a hearing next week for the zoning board. So that's what that's part about. And look, as board members, they're open. This is supposedly this Saturday night is their last time. I would encourage you people to just go out there at 9:00 at night and see what it is, and see if you want to listen to the horns blowing off and the explosions going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other members of the public who wish to speak about non-agenda items this evening? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go on to our first application this evening. We have a site plan application by BWSV LLC to make changes to the Lobster Boat Restaurant, map 2, lot 2, 273 Dairy Road. Applicant is requesting to construct a 20-foot by 50-foot roof over the existing outdoor seating and patio and an addition to the existing kitchen. Is the applicant present this evening?
We are.
And can the applicant introduce himself to the board?
My name is Richard Maynard, professional engineer with Maynard Parkhead of Nashua. Well, with me is Ben Workinger Jr. of BWSV LLC.
Welcome. So normally what we do with site plan applications, I'll give you the sort of the rundown of the process. What we first do normally as a planning board is we look to accept the application for its completeness. Now, what that means is, do you have all of the required paperwork? Do you have have the abutters been notified? All the fees have been paid? And do you have all of the necessary plans and so forth to complete the project? So it's not an approval of the application, but it is an acceptance of the application for its completeness. It's basically the documents. Then what will happen is I will allow you to present your, if the board accepts the application for completeness, there's a vote for that. A motion goes forward. Once that motion goes forward, you are allowed to speak about the project. And you can go into detail about what's going on. And then what will happen is if the board has any questions, they can ask you questions. Then we will open it up to public comment and public input. because it's a public meeting, and the abutters will have an opportunity, if there are any, to respond. And then once we do that, then we will we'll bring it back to the board, and then we will go into whether the board is going to approve the project on a conditionally, unconditionally, whatever. So that's the process. I just figured I'd give you that little spiel ahead of time so that you get an idea of how we run things here. So first off, let's look at the application for completeness. Joan, do we have all abutters been notified?
Yes, and fees have been paid.
And fees have been paid, and the application is complete. We have all, seals and signatures, everything that's necessary for a site plan. Okay. Jay, would you concur in that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have, I'm going to entertain a motion to accept the application. It looks like we have butters notified. We have fees paid. Fees paid. We have the documents, the necessary documentation and site plan documents. So I would entertain a motion to accept for completeness.
So moved.
And I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do I have a discussion? Okay. All those, and just before we make the vote, before we even do that, I have to hold off for a moment. I've been asked by our note keeper to, in order to help viewers and to help the planning staff and the clerks for records, when you make a motion, I guess they want us to raise our hand. So whoever makes the motion, I guess. So if you make a motion, raise your hand. If you're going to second it, second it. Do we need a vote on that? Is that my understanding? Okay. So I'm going to entertain a motion to have when we make a motion, that the person who makes the motion raises their
Oh,
hand.
no, I put you in a motion to accept the plan. You don't need a motion on what.
That's what I was asking.
Procedure.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're all set then. That's just one clarification. All right. So I guess that's the clarification. I'm sorry. So I guess we have a motion. We have a second. And do we have discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion carries 7-0-0. Excuse me. So the application has been accepted for its completeness by the board. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it over to you folks, the applicant, and you can give us your presentation as what you're here for this evening and why you are seeking a site plan application. So I'll
Thank
let you
you.
take over.
For the record, my name is Richard Maynard, professional engineer with Maynard Parkdown Engineering of Nashua. Just so everybody knows, I did the original site plan personally in 1982. I've been around that long. The owner of the retail parlor and Lobster Boat restaurant is BWSV. Ben Workinger Jr. is a member of that entity. I expected to have North Point Construction here, but I guess they didn't show. And they will. Oh, you're back there, okay. And they will be doing the construction. Their rendering is up here showing what the building will look like. The open terrace area with the roof over it. And in the back side, you can see a little bit where the kitchen is being expanded. The parcel of concern contains 5.7 acres, also known as Map 2, Lot 2. Contains 5 units of various businesses, including offices, some retail, a daycare, and the Lobster restaurant itself. Also on site is a 2,000 square foot building dedicated to small animals, principally dogs for grooming and kennel. There is also a small auto repair facility. The proposal on the plan is to expand the existing Lobster Boat restaurant kitchen only by 365 square feet and to place a roof of about 710 square feet over the existing outdoor seating patio. There are no increases in the restaurant seating, and the patio will still be seasonal. The roof over the patio is more to keep the elements off than it is to allow them to expand their operation. Parking for the regs requires 95 spaces for this site, and the existing site has some 115 spaces in various locations on the site. Under the regulations, various items are usually required, but since this proposal is relatively minor, we've asked for several waivers They include waiver of traffic, internal circulation, contours, soil types, and stormwater calcs. As explained in our letter to the board dated September 18th, none of these items has any impact on what is proposed for this site. Other than the very small addition to the kitchen and the roof over the outdoor, no changes to the site are proposed. Thank you.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
What does it look like today? Do we want to look at it on Google
Yeah.
Maps?
So
Oh,
You'll have to look at drawing number 2 on your plans. But if you want to see a photograph of today,
Yep, I see it. Yep. Oh, are those copies of?
yes.
Oh, yes, that would be- Thank you. Oh, no, there we go.
Thank you.
Today I got it. Yeah, and so see how the windows are. The door is the same spot. We're just adding this whole. So is there gonna be anything to stop, like, if you look at, you're adding roof line that now say snow's melting, it's all coming down right on top of that ramp.
No, it isn't. A portion of it, yes, I'm sorry, yes.
So,
That ramp is just today,
yep, I'm sorry.
okay, and that roof line is not changing. If the board is concerned, they can put a gutter line or a diversion,
There'd be something to divert.
Yes.
Yeah.
because that's a liability question and a liability concern, and it's an excellent question, so.
So we're concerned about
So
that.
we will
There's a,
address that as part of the building plans, there will be something to divert snow and rain from coming down on a handicap ramp, access ramp.
okay. And is there any new lighting, like outdoor lighting, besides what would be, say, under
Nothing.
the added part?
We just need a little bit bigger kitchen and we want to cover the patio. No other changes to the site.
Okay. Is the sign lit up now? The red one on the
It
roof?
currently,
Okay, so it'd be like similar, this new white sign would be,
we would have lighting on the sign, yes.
Yeah.
okay.
And this is seasonal in nature, correct? So
Yes.
there wouldn't be, I assume this is mostly for the summer and,
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a little bit to the fall, we're right at the edge of the time when the people would want to be sitting outside. So,
is the kitchen adding anything on the top for like a fan or
I
anything?
can't, excuse me?
The kitchen, the new kitchen area, the expanded kitchen? Is there anything on the roof for a
On
fan
the
or
top,
anything?
in the top right picture,
Yeah.
the back right, where it's boxed in a little bit, that is where a fan would be coming through the roof. There's currently 2 fans coming through the roof right now.
This is the rear of the structure, and that's where this is the addition for
The kitchen.
the kitchen.
Yep, in the
So
back,
it's to
right?
the rear of the building, yes.
I thought I saw something about a fan.
It's the kitchen exhaust fans, correct?
Yes.
Okay, there, yeah, that's common.
And there's currently 2 coming through the back of the building now.
Without them, you don't cook.
No.
can you talk a little bit about, I noticed you have some waivers that you're looking to get.
Yes.
Can we discuss those?
The waivers are addressed in my September 18th letter. And the first waiver is essentially of the traffic. There's nothing here that'll increase the amount of traffic to the site. It's simply a roof over existing seating area. So there's no change in the traffic in and out of the site. Internal circulation. This site has existed in its present configuration since '82. It's worked very well. There's no changes to that circulation around this building. That doesn't necessarily need to be looked at again. Contours, there's no grading, there's no change in anything. The little 365 square foot kitchen that goes right behind the building. There's no change in elevations or contours. Soil types are of no consideration here whatsoever. And stormwater, the area around the back of the building where this stuff is essentially impervious because it's been compacted, et cetera, and it only represents 0.1% of the total area. Excuse me. There is no stormwater impact, no increase in stormwater runoff because of the nature of what's there already. So that's essentially what those waivers are.
The reason I brought up that rooftop is I just want to make sure you're okay with this. It says all rooftop air conditioning, heating equipment, and any other large mechanical equipment shall be screened from public view. I'm not sure, are those small are they small stacks that are coming out? Or are
They're
they-
not stacks, but they're openings that have a fan or a hooded type thing in it to the rear of the building. So
Is that considered large mechanical equipment or no?
I
don't see
wouldn't,
it.
I wouldn't think so. And as noted, it is in the back of the
Yeah.
building.
Okay, it said it may be part of
That's-
articulation of the building. I just want to make sure you're not having.
That's all right.
this
That's
big-
It's not like
applicable.
it's not like an air
it's
conditioning.
more
unit.
applicable to industrial buildings and things like that where
Okay.
there's a lot of ventilation. You know, this is not much bigger than a large
That's
kitchen
my
in a
only
home,
question.
in some homes.
That window size, okay? Remember, we're supposed to have a window size, relatively, the kitchen windows.
If I may, that's a building permit issue, isn't it?
Well, we
Window sizes.
have like what our building should look like in 120.13. We have some,
The 60% you mean?
yeah. But that could be considering the frontage as well.
Yeah.
The windows, so I think they're all right. I
This
just
is
want to
the
make sure
front.
it passes that aesthetic that we have here.
Jay, do you have any comments that you'd like to add? Or open up?
A few. I mean, overall, this is really a very, very minimal impact improvement to the site. As noted, there is no increase in seating. This is an existing patio area, so no impact to traffic, no impact to internal circulation. There is the small kitchen addition, but it's very, very small in area, so any increase to stormwater would be de minimis. Obviously, the patio area is already an impervious surface. Overall, I think this is personal opinion, but the roof line that's shown over the patio area, I think actually enhances the aesthetic appeal of the building. So it seems like a pretty minor improvement that overall improves the functionality of the site.
So what I'll do right now, unless there's anything else you want to add. Okay. I'm going to open it up to public input. Are there any members of the public here this evening who would like to comment?
There being none, for the record.
Yes, thank you. So there being none for the record, because I don't hear anything.
Sorry, I've been doing this for 50 years. I can't help
It's
it.
okay. Yes, I will close public input and bring it back to the board. What are the board's wishes? Do they have any more questions that you'd like to ask the applicant? Any issues?
Are you planning, I see you have, you've got some established landscaping out there right now. Would that be replaced or are you trying to work around it?
No, we would replace the landscaping.
Okay, but
Something probably, same thing, nicer, cleaner.
similar, sure. Okay. Yeah, we'd like to see just some kind of greenery or something, like you have out there right now.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can probably note that on the plan, or make it, something, a note to the plan, basically.
It would be all right if that was a stipulation of approval too.
Sure, okay. Thank you.
And what are the hours of operation of this restaurant?
Sunday through Thursday, 11:30 to 8, and Friday and Saturday, 11:30 to 8:30.
That's when it's open to the general public.
Right.
Yes.
And I would probably, as a condition of approval, I'd probably note that on the plan as well, just the hours of operation.
See you, my kid.
11:30 to 8 o'clock, Sunday through Thursday. And 11:30 to 8:30, Friday and Saturday.
If they wanted to change that, like the 9 or something like that, would they have to come back to the board meeting? Because, just think about it, the operating, it's not
You know.
bad. I'm just being logical here,
And I have to speak up for my applicant.
Yes, please do.
They don't understand that you're going to want to try to hold them to that. And so if he wants to open at 10
Mhm.
on weekends, it really shouldn't matter. So the hours of operation should be 10 a.m. And if he wants to open past 8 during the week to maybe 10, which is not unusual for a restaurant. So to me, 10 to 10, for all 7 days is the appropriate hours of operation.
Common
You know,
with rest, it's common with
He
rest.
starts getting
Yeah.
super successful. He's gonna, if he's drawing people there, so it easily could happen.
Yep.
So my applicant is too honest for you guys and doesn't look forward.
Got that from his genes.
Okay. If there's no other questions from the board, did the fire department look at this and did they make any comments or suggestions?
The only time I think they will look at is at the time of building permit, because
No real site plan to speak of.
there's no fire department access type issues right now. It's the equipment in the kitchen.
You'll deal with that.
All right. So, what we can do, if you want, if the board is amenable, we can go through the waivers, and make motions on the waivers as they appear, as that the applicant is requesting. Do those and then do kind of condition of approval, for the project. Does that seem like a good idea?
Is there any reason why we have to do waiver by waiver? Can we just make a motion to approve
We can make a motion to approve all of them at the same time.
I'd make a motion to approve all of the waivers as requested by the applicant.
Do I have discussion? All those in favor of approving sections 150.4, section 150.5, section 150.7 F and R, section 150.7 M, and section 150.7 Q, as regards to this, to the site plan for the Lobster Boat Plaza Restaurant, as a waiver request to be allowed, signified by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained. Motion carries 700. So the waivers have been granted. Now we have to go to the approval of the site plan. So I would entertain a motion to approve the plan for the Lobster Boat Plaza on 273 Dairy Road, Litchfield, New Hampshire. Just hold on a second.
It is in Litchfield.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, that would be foolish, wouldn't it? Dairy Road, Litchfield, New Hampshire. I'm sorry. So,
Do we need a new sign application if it's a new sign compared to the old one, even if it's similar?
If they're gonna get a new sign, they're gonna have to come back to the board to get blessing on the new sign.
Okay.
That's what the regulations say.
We're not changing any signs at this time, no.
Correct, okay? But you change them, they gotta come back to the board and get a blessing.
Okay.
So what I was looking for is site plan application BWSV LLC. make changes to the Lobster Boat Restaurant, map 2, lot 2, 273 Dairy Road, Litchfield, New Hampshire. This, looking for a motion to approve this plan on the condition that the applicant note on its plan that a landscape design a note as to what they are going to put for landscaping, that it complies with the character of the town. Also, putting in a condition on the hours of operation from 10 to 10, as we discussed, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on the condition that obviously you'll be getting a building permit. I don't even know if that's a condition put in, but
I wouldn't have to worry about that condition.
I don't think there's anything else, Jerry. I think that's those are the ones that I have concerns with, unless the board has anything else that they want to add in. So I entertain a motion for the conditional approval of this project.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Do we have discussion? Further discussion? All right. All those signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, folks.
Okay. Thank you for coming in and good luck.
Thank you.
What's the retirement party, Jay?
Okay.
4 more years is gonna change it. You're still gonna be here.
That's borderline. Borderline. Been here since '82.
I know. I've been dealing with you longer. You're blessed.
Night, folks. Have a nice holiday.
Good night. Okay, the second item on the agenda this evening is number 2, a subdivision plan by the estate of Fred D. and Janet McQuestion, tax map 15, lot 14, 124 Hillcrest Road, to subdivide one lot into 16 lots in the residential district. The applicant is present. If the applicant would introduce himself to the board. And,
All right. Good evening, everyone. Tucker McCarthy, Keach Nordstrom Associates. With me this evening is John Noseworthy as well as Rick Charbonneau. So I think everybody is fairly familiar with this project. Just want to kind of go through some of the changes that we made in response to the last hearing and the board's comments. I did want to add that John has come up with a proposed name for this, which would be Brookfield Acres. And he also has a proposed road name, which is Firefly Way. Those are, it sounded like the fire department was okay with the road name, but it would be pending Board of Selectmen approval for the name as well. So that process would take place afterwards. So following the last hearing, as we got approvals for variations for the one lot of the existing house to not be off of the proposed roadway, as well as the reduction of the 150-foot setback off of the existing right-of-way for those lots, the 2 lots on Hillcrest. And in following the board's vote on the variation for the lot on Charles Bancroft Highway, we have removed that as a buildable lot from the subdivision. So now we have reduced the total proposed lots from 16 lots to 15 proposed buildable lots. So that's pretty much all that we changed. We did reconfigure the lots a little bit around the existing house, and those 3 lots, 2, 4, and 6 along the proposed roadway. They all meet the minimum lot requirements and frontage for the conservation open space subdivision. So it's more of just moving some lot lines around and for what the applicant wanted. The one thing that there was a bit of a miscommunication between myself and the applicant, and be happy to, if the board was open to making this a condition of the approval, they would like to create a 16th lot for the back portion, as we had shown before, but it would be noted that would be a non-buildable lot. They would like to reserve the right to potentially build a barn on that lot. The only reason to have that 16th lot would be for separate ownership for the family. I'm not sure if that's something that we're allowed to do, Jay, or not, but something that they would like to do.
Could you say where that
Create a
16th lot?
non-buildable lot.
What we're talking about is making the lot line right here, this becoming a non-buildable lot, except on this area, if they want to have a horse or they want to have something, they can build a small barn in this area.
It would be a non-livable type
Non-livable,
structure.
Just for farming.
So we would note right on the plan that would be recorded that is a non-buildable lot. And we'd probably have a note that it would just reserve the right for them to build some type of a barn or something like that. So they would like to continue to farm this land down here. So
But my gut reaction is, if I could, I would have to dive in deeper. I'm not aware that we can create a non-buildable lot that's unless it is covered by a deed restriction or is designated open space. I think that would be.
Yeah, we'll put a deed restriction on it. The only thing that we're asking for in this area, that they, at some day, if they wanted to, they could build a barn if they wanted to have a horse or whatever they wanted to do there. A cow, chicken, whatever. One of the McQuestion children is gonna live here, and they want to keep this, John's brother, son wants to keep this lot for himself, so that, and he might want to farm it, and if the family wants to build a barn there.
So agricultural use is an allowed use on designated open space. So I think so, if that area were to be included within the designated open space and used for agricultural purposes, and that was clear in the deed restriction or the easement, then I think that would be permissible.
I just want to the only thing I mentioned the barn is because we just want to make it clear that at some point, if they wanted to, they want to build a barn.
And I think that would be allowable,
Does that
subject to the approval
Right.
of the board
Right.
as an agricultural use.
Yeah, for agriculture.
Right.
Is it going to be a barn that's 133 feet across? I'm just asking. Is
it would have to be,
Is it a paddock for horses or it is a?
it would have to be outside of the 250-foot setback, and it would have to meet the building setbacks as well.
What are you envisioning for a barn? Like 6 horses?
Yeah, it could be a 30 by 40, it could be a 20 by 20. I mean, if you want to put a size no bigger than 40 by 60, I don't know. I don't think they'd ever build something that big, but I don't know if they do it.
Don't touch that. You see the old man with barns. He's got his own barns.
Really?
They get bigger. But it's not agricultural.
So I believe at this point, it's just the waivers were voted on, the variations were voted on. It's just the subdivision approvals. We asked to be continued for that vote, so.
So could I ask a question? So
Yeah.
lot 15 then would become smaller.
Map 15, lot 14-7,
Right,
yes.
That is now 13 acres would be significantly smaller.
Yeah, it would basically, it would go back to the same lot lines and areas that we had proposed the 16th buildable lot. However, it would be deed restricted
Which
to
would-
not be a buildable lot. And I would actually put non-buildable right on the plan, which we
16 lot would
recorded.
would be restricted. So that in effect is your open space, 16th lot?
Yep, the easement over the former railroad would remain, as well as the deed restriction area that we have shown in the center.
So the proposed area of deed restriction in the wetland area, just that proposed area of deed restriction only applies to the shaded wetland area and a little bit of the upland area?
That's correct, because that would be a separate deed restriction that would not allow any type of disturbance or construction at all.
But still it would be part of the 16th lot?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then the only other thing is, I did speak with the town's peer review engineer yesterday, and received a letter with some minor outstanding comments that I would feel very comfortable if the board was willing to grant the approval on the condition of appeasing those comments. And I'm sure he can chime in to.
Well, we have Mr. Karen here. Did you want to just briefly tell us what those are?
Yeah, most of them, I would call them bookkeeping to coordinate different aspects of the plan. For instance, at the low point, they're putting in double grates for the catch basins. So, and they're using a designation DCB for double grate for the catch basin, but other places in the plan they didn't. So it's a matter of just coordinating all these little notes, and most of it, that's all it was, the box culvert detail, again, just adding a little bit more information to help the contractor to build it as intended. So it's just looking at the engineering intent and trying to make sure all the details are there to describe the intent. So whoever's out in the field trying to build it or watching it being built, they have something to go to for reference. So they're just minor stuff. I did ask for the catch basin in the middle of the cul-de-sac to be lowered a little bit to get a little more slopes coming off the edge of pavement. Some of them were pretty flat. So just 6 cents a foot made a little bit of a difference for drainage.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I do have one question. That lot that's on 3A over there,
Yep.
where the barn would go.
Mhm.
I'm going to read some, I just want to see if you agree to what's here. What about the setback again? How would that be affected, the 250 versus the 150? I want clarification on that.
The 250 setback is still in place, and it is shown on the plan.
Okay. It also says buffer from abutting lots of record. Any building, structure, roadway, or parking area shall be 50 feet from an abutting lot of record.
Are you able to? Do you have this?
Oh, yeah, I have it. It's 575.61.
No, can you go to sheet 6?
I just want to make sure this is in compliance.
Yeah. So stop there. So if you look, this plan will be recorded, and I guess my light doesn't work on the. Yeah. So those.
Oh, so you're not even near the two abutting properties.
It'd have to be built in that area.
This is
Okay, perfect.
this is the
I just wanna make
setback
sure
line.
you're
We
right
can put a note on the plan that reserved for future bond has to be in that area.
In that area. I just want to make sure it's in compliance, that's all. It sounds like it
Yep.
is.
I like that compliance.
Yeah, you know. Okay.
So just to be clear, if we approve this today, would they have to come back at a point in the future when they were going to build a bond to get permission, approval from the board, or could they be at liberty to build a bond of any dimensions that they wanted?
They could build a barn without coming back to the board unless the board the board made a condition that the proposed design would come back. They could put a note on the plan describing, as it was noted, area for a potential barn or future barn. I think what's key though is what would the language in the deed restriction be? How would it be worded? Are there limitations on size? That would really be the question.
In access of 3A required.
That's also a question I would have.
What was
I'm
that
sorry?
second?
What the access to the barn would be.
Right.
From 3A.
So what if there were to be a curb cut, obviously That's not a part of the application right now.
I thought I read that the houses in this type of a, COSD couldn't be prefab. Does that mean the barn could not be a prefab? I don't want to be a stickler here, but
It's a barn, not a house, so.
I'm just,
That's-
you know,
I
they're
guess that's
saying
open
if having a
discussion.
standard for
I
a
don't know if
house
they make
versus a barn.
prefab barns or not. Do you think they do? Yeah.
Well, a barn can be huge.
Right.
It could take up the whole 130 feet. I wasn't joking. It could. Well, no, whatever that square is that you just pointed out.
Right. There could be a limitation on size. There could also be a condition that, the board approve any future barn if that were a concern.
It's really just access. How did you think you were going to get to that area?
From 3A.
Okay, so you're
So there would be-
anticipating.
Yeah, there's no other way to get there.
There's no other way.
Okay, I didn't know. I just want to make sure.
It
That's
would
what
have
you're
to be from 3A, and we'd have to get a curb cut from the state to put a driveway in there,
Which they're allowed to have no matter what.
which you're allowed. You can have a curb cut.
And there's no immediate plans to do this, so it could never ever happen. But
Yeah, it's just,
essentially they lost a buildable lot, so they'd like to have some usability of that land. It's more being kept in the family. That one of the lots off of the driveway was actually going to be reserved, and they were not planning to build a house on it. So it's kind of the replacement. We could have fit 16 lots off of the proposed roadway, but they did not want to have small lots. It changes the character of the neighborhood, and that's why we wanted that 16th lot to be off of 3A for a buildable lot. So essentially lost some value in losing a 16th lot, but
the area that's not for the barn. How is that worded? That goes to the deed that it's going to be. It doesn't have to go to the town to say how they're going to use that land, if it's going to be right of way or conservation or forestry or agriculture.
I guess I'm a little vague. If I'm understanding what I'm hearing correctly, the proposal is that this entire new lot would be considered designated open space. Is that correct?
yeah.
correct.
Okay. So then that is allowable. The question is just what does the language of the easement or the deed restriction say in terms of the
So I
use?
believe you said that the open space designation allowed for agricultural
It
type
does.
uses. So that's all that it would be used for.
Then you're covered. The way the zoning
Right.
is written, it's covered.
Is it,
The barn is permitted.
if I could, earlier you'd mentioned that the area that's shaded would be subject to greater restriction.
Well, only because it's wetland, so it is greater restrictions, I guess, isn't it?
I guess maybe the whole lot should just have the same deed restriction, right? I mean, because there's really no area that's not wetlands on the rest anyway that's usable.
I mean, that's what I would think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The range of uses that's allowed in designated open space is broader than do nothing.
Okay, so it makes sense to just deed restrict the whole lot with the stipulation of
Of the driveway and
of
the
the
barn.
open space with the.
Yeah, I think, make it clear what you want.
Well, I think that maybe a driveway and a barn would kind of fit into the agricultural use. I think we're just trying to
Does.
present to the board that is the intention. It's not the intention to ever have a livable dwelling structure, but just kind of letting you know what the possible future plan would be. So it may not even be that we need to put that on the plan, but we just thought that it would be helpful just as that's a possible plan that we would do. So, but it sounds like that would all kind of fit into what is allowable based on the.
Yeah, I mean, it includes forest management, agriculture, including pastures, which obviously a barn would relate to, as well as passive trails and recreational uses. Those are all allowed uses.
Okay.
In designated.
Sure, and we can have the applicant's attorney put that together and get that to
Town council.
Jay and yeah.
So who would be the owner of that land at that point when it's deeded? The town?
We haven't seen any language, so I don't know. I
Because
would assume
there's
it's privately owned with,
575.8, just, for future here, we should read that.
Whose name is it in now?
Yeah,
It's in the estate's name.
And they own it.
I'm not familiar. What does the language say that the property should be deeded to the town?
I'm gonna let you read that. if you
yeah,
don't
the
mind.
lot doesn't need to be deeded to the town.
Right.
There's a deed restriction or easement where
But I
that the
have that
town would
kind
of-
benefit
The-
from.
yeah,
That's the question mark, but that section, really, once the town decides how the land is used, or however the wording is gonna be, it looks at the future, if it can be changed. I was just
So
questioning it, that's all.
when we talk about deed restriction, is that the same thing as conservation easement? Is that what we're saying? Is that the same term or is that something different?
It's not necessarily the same. One can be the other, but it's not necessarily the same. A deed restriction can be any number of things. A conservation commission is more specific.
Okay.
And typically that would be for the benefit of the town, but it could be the conservation commission. It also could be a nonprofit. Under the ordinance, it could, any of those entities could be a beneficiary. Like
And
the
the town
like the
being the
Forest
public.
Society,
Yeah.
as an example, could be a beneficiary of an easement.
Oh, I am not a lawyer, but did that mean anything to you legally?
That's an option. So if
I was reading this, and we'll give it to you as well, so you can say it as well.
I don't want to overly complicate it, but in an open space development, you have designated open space, and that land would be protected, by a conservation easement. You could have land that's held in common that is not part of the designated open space, and that could be conveyed to a homeowners association, it could be conveyed to a condo association, or some corporation, which is what that's referencing. So that land could be conveyed to a variety of different entities. And so what that's referencing is that any such, if you're going to create any entity that's going to own land in an open space development, that's got to be reviewed by town council.
Okay, so it's not like in the future something can change. This land, once it's identified how it's going to be handled, not to say it's conservation or agriculture, whatever, that stays
And say
permanent.
nothing can change, but the ordinance says in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Oh, what does that mean? I'm not a lawyer. What does that mean?
Permanent.
Okay.
So
So we're safe? That was just my question mark. This is fine. We're not having any of this apply, or we don't.
we're safe, but we still have to obviously see the language and have it approved.
Do you want
by
to see
town
what I'm
council.
talking about? Again,
I understand.
I'm not a lawyer.
I think I
I can
understand.
give it
Thank
to you.
you.
It's
Yes,
575.8.0.
I do. We understand, right?
Morgan
Yeah.
will do the.
Okay.
And town council can approve it.
Well, yeah, they have to. I mean, it has to be approved by town council. Right. To the, obviously to the approval can be.
Does the town pick whether it's going to be agricultural, conservation, or is it going to be any of the four, or are they specific forestry?
Well, it is subject to board approval. So whatever the proposed uses are, the board, has to agree to that. And then that would become embodied in the document itself.
So I guess to make it clear, what we're asking for is for there to be a deed restriction placed on that lot, it to be a non-buildable lot, to be privately held in ownership.
Privately held by who? By
Oh,
what?
that could be
Like whoever.
sold a million times. I don't know. And it's to remain in the family for now, but it certainly could be sold and
In the
resold
future,
in the
could
future.
this change from conservation? Can it change? If that deed says,
That's why we want a deed, designated this as open space in perpetuity.
okay, perpetuity, okay. So
You
we
can't
want to see
change it
that,
when it's
gotcha.
approved like that. It stays in open space.
I want it to remain,
It's
open.
gonna stay that way unless they come back to the board with another hearing for whatever to change it. The abutters could buy it, okay? And use it there too.
And actually, once a deed restriction is placed, the only person that can remove that deed restriction is the original person that put that on there. So if it was sold to 4 different people and they came back to change it, legally they couldn't change it unless the estate allowed them to change that deed restriction.
And the beneficiary of the easement.
Right, and the beneficiary. It's impossible to change it back. Pretty much.
You would have to take it to court and
Nothing's impossible, but that's pretty close to it.
Pretty tough.
So my question is, do we need to wait to see the language in the deed? Are we approving this concept tonight? I'm not exactly sure what we should be doing. I mean, the concept sounds fine to me. I don't know if we need to wait to see the language, if it has to be approved by the town council before we act.
Yes, so I guess there's 2 ways you could do it. You could simply say, okay, board seems to be amenable to the concept. Maybe you give whatever input you wish into the content of it. and then you could continue it to a date certain or not, subject to receipt and satisfactory review. You could approve it conditionally on receipt and satisfactory review of the easement document. But you would want to see that at a subsequent meeting because the ordinance says final approval. You have to have town council's review and approval before final approval of the board. So in other words, that would be a way of getting closure over everything other than the easement defining the open space, if you wished to do that.
So I think we would prefer conditional approval if possible, and we would not be able to record the plans until that had been cleared up because the board wouldn't sign the plans until that was taken.
I recommend we go for conditional approval, subject to the deed being approved by council and the boards. This way, it's not coming in for another hearing. We can take the information and say that it's all set and go, Jay. That's how I feel about it.
Should we put in wording that it's agricultural?
It's already on the plan, right?
I didn't hear what he said.
It's already on the plan as agricultural.
It's already on the plan.
Oh, it is. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's- I don't think it is.
I didn't see
It
that.
just says deed restriction. That's what
Yeah,
we're looking
we need
for.
to, we need to update the plan. Yeah.
So is the board, is that what the rest of you guys want to, is that what the board wants to do? Or do you want to wait and have town council review it? Have them come back and,
To be completely honest, I mean, Jake can weigh in on this. It's going to be some legal jargon and there may be some small changes in language here or there, but I don't really think there's much that I would really understand some of the language that needs to be done. It's more of a kind of.
So I would move for the conditional approval as Mr. Lynch has talked about. I think that makes the most sense. I think the concept is perfectly fine. I appreciate that you listen to us. And so I think that just makes sense.
And then that note, agriculture is going to be put somewhere. You said
Or
it's
just
not there yet.
designated
It
open
certainly
space.
will be. It'll be on the plans and it'll also be in the language of the deed restriction, which
Just don't want
is
it open.
recorded.
So often.
Tony made a good point. I have to open it up to public comment. So at this time, I am going to open it up to the public. Is there any members of the public here who wish to speak, have any questions or concerns about this project? You can come forward and introduce yourselves. I don't see anybody. So I am going to close public input at this point and bring it back to the board. So we want to conditionally approve this.
I think you have a comment.
Oh,
One
I'm
comment.
sorry.
There were two other deed restrictions on here besides the open space for some drainage facilities on individual lots that are not gonna have to be maintained by the town. So just to let you know, there's
Okay.
more than one deed restriction. There are easements, drainage and slope easements.
It's in your report, right? Is that in your report?
There's two small ponds on these individual lots that handle
Right.
runoff.
Here and one
So
You do show on the plan?
Yes.
That I've seen already.
they're right here.
Yep, there's two detention basins. Actually, three.
Were those in your notes though, as far as?
Well, I didn't have to comment on it. I had asked for that,
Yeah.
the last letter. How is this gonna be handled? And this was the response to put it as a deed restriction, that whoever buys the lot is responsible for maintaining it.
It's also,
So we would have town council review those easements also.
Right.
that is also reiterated on sheet 2, note 19, that says a deed restriction shall be required for lots 14-9, 14-10 regarding the maintenance of the drainage infiltration
You
ponds.
covered it. It's on the plan.
So you're happy it meets the definition of the COSD, we're all.
Yes.
All right. So I guess what is the will of the board? Do I want to entertain a motion to approve this project? based on
I
the,
think we still have a motion.
I thought that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought the motion, that's what I made as a motion.
oh, you made the motion to.
Yep.
Yes.
Unconditionally approve. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure it was seconded, but I made a motion.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you.
You haven't called for the vote yet.
May I have clarification again?
That was it. Yeah, can we run through the conditions again?
Yeah, I want to review
Wait,
if
wait
it's
a minute,
conditional
no
versus
second on
non.
that motion.
No, wait a minute. Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. So there is a motion. Someone made a motion. Now, so we're going to have to decide, all right, do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it for you.
Second it. Discussion.
I still have a question, or is it too late to ask a question?
You
Discussion.
can discuss the
Can
motion.
You can
I
discuss it.
have the two options again? If it's conditional, it goes to town council and they all work that out, and then we see it after the fact.
Well, right. Well,
I just want to make sure what the two options are, that's all.
We won't sign it until it's, all the conditions
right,
are
not
met.
necessarily that. So the ordinance says is that before final approval, town council has to review and approve the deed restriction or easement language. So the two ways of handling that are, one, you just continue the hearing until a future date, till you get it, and you get town council's review. The other option is that you approve it conditionally on town council's review and approval of the language as well as the boards. So it will come back to you to see the language.
So the applicant's lawyers will fill it out and give it to our town council.
Right. And then before, the plans are signed, the board will see that. You'll get the letter from the attorney with the review, presumably that'll be favorable by the time it comes to you, and you'll have a chance to see the language also.
And if we liked it, that's fine, and if we didn't, we had a chance to say something about it, or?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So it doesn't really get us anywhere to conditionally approve it or not.
I didn't know
Still
if
have
we had to
still have
tell
do
our,
another-
Well,
our council.
it's arguable. What it
information
does is
upfront.
close the door on the other issues. It leaves it that, the benefit certainly to the applicant would be that the only outstanding issue is the language of the easement.
Okay.
So-
Again, if the board wished
Okay.
to go
So
that direction.
I thought what conditional approval meant was that if town council approved it, then it come back to us a final approval, but the issue was resolved, that we weren't going to debate it again. As long as the language in the deed was approved by town council, we're conditionally approving it based on the approval of town council.
So I guess I'll say there's more than one way you could do it. That is one way you could do it.
Okay, that's what I
Town
meant.
council
So
approves
maybe
it.
I should,
Okay, that's your motion.
I should
Town council
clarify my
approves it.
motion. That's what I'm,
You get the letter back from town council saying
Yes.
approved,
Right.
then it's approved.
That-
But
and
our
then
town council does no input from us to say what we're expecting to be in that.
That's right. So
That's what I'm trying to.
and other
that's the
option
check and
is
balance.
that both the planning board and town council has to approve the language. That's an alternate way.
I like that, so we can ensure agricultural is in there and use of a barn. Not
I don't
forestry.
think that, well, I mean, I don't think that's going to be an issue. They've told us they're going to put it in. I can't believe that
Just do
we
it
had a
that
public
way.
hearing. They're not going to put that into the
Yeah,
to the
we,
deed.
we can ensure you.
But if we don't see it after, say it's additionally approved, and if we don't see that somewhere, we could
It's
have a
in the
chance
minutes.
Just do
Stop
it that way.
It's in the minutes.
Just do it that way.
It's in the minutes.
It'll be in the minutes tonight.
And
what
it-
they're
So if our
saying,
town
okay?
council approves it, we don't see it, we have something to.
Correct,
go
and it's
back
in the
on.
minutes.
Just
Yes.
Just do it.
just do it so that we,
Hold on, I want to make sure
Just,
that our town council's getting something, says, yeah, it's great.
I know.
It has no idea what we're talking
But
about.
just do it so that town council approves it. We come back to the board for that issue only.
And we can see it.
And you
And
can
if
see
we
it.
don't see it, what do we,
you'll see it.
You don't see it.
but if we don't see it,
We
are
have to
you
go
on your
back to
way?
town council and
Then
say.
it goes,
do
back. So we
again.
have a chance
You
to have
approve
another
it.
iteration at it.
Right.
That's all I want to make sure that.
Yes.
It's just a correction.
All I know is your lawyer sending the town lawyer something. I have no idea what's being sent.
And you have
We'll
to,
see.
And then if we have to agree to it, I don't know what the
the
communication
other thing you
was.
have to understand is that this is usually the typical process, because why spend money to have a lawyer draft all these documents if we don't have an approved subdivision?
I agree, but the main thing is we have to understand what we're agreeing here is in that letter.
So you give us a conditional approval tonight that the easement on that 16th lot is subject to town council and planning board approval. So when we come back next time, That's the only thing we're discussing.
Is it has to say agricultural somewhere? Because I thought the
It will,
town,
it will in the language.
because the town has 4 or 5 options and you can explicitly say.
That's what they're saying that they will
Space,
include.
so it doesn't have.
Okay, I
That's
just
what I'm
want to
telling
make
you.
sure.
You get one more crack at it if you don't like what we say.
Okay, I want to make sure we get a crack at it. If we don't see it, we
You
have a
have one
chance.
more crack.
But I don't want to waste the
Maybe
time.
2.
I don't want to waste the time.
But that's the only thing you get to discuss. You don't get to open up.
But that's
New
fine. I
things.
just want to make
That's
sure we
fine.
see agricultural is the main thing.
And then the other condition was lose notes we talked about in the beginning. Right?
And that's noted on the plan that we got in Lou's notes, and also the easements that's not been located on the plan. Subject to Lou's notes, and the easement documentation, who's going to maintain it, is already on there. And the lot at the end, this is just getting the town council to write up, their attorney to write up something for town council and board to review. And from there on, it's cut and dry. We don't have to come back for any more.
Okay. So,
And the engineer is not going to be happy with me. So we have all our state permits. Should be part of that. This should be part of every approval that you get.
right, so those would be conditioned upon the approval that you have all your state permits.
Your engineer. Just him.
He ain't gonna like this.
It's all right. What we,
It should be on every approval of every plan. If you don't have the state permits, that's subject to that.
You don't get it.
alteration of terrain is typically a 50-day backlog, and they're at 84 days right now. So one of their
I saw it on
one
the
of the
sheets.
one of their employees retired. So
So we got plenty of time to get the lawyer's letters here to review pending the final approval from the,
To review the
Wetlands
pending
Board.
final.
We can't start construction until we have it. So
No matter what.
no matter what, so it needs to be part of that approval.
So just so that everyone's clear, because I know we've got a whole bunch of things going on here. So we have conditional on the deed restriction. That language is going to be subject to
It's not.
town council and planning board approval.
Do we have an agreement on what we're looking for the language? Because I keep
Don't-
hearing all these different things.
They know what they have to write up.
Okay.
They don't
She's
submit
asking
it,
what I
we'll
just
submit
said,
it to-
I think.
I think it has, it has to comply with the, what's in the open spaces. So if they're doing something that has to be agriculturally related, then it's going to be based on that.
would it be helpful if you asked Jay to write a letter to the board
No, I just don't want to.
saying what the intent of the
Are you
it
reviewing the legal letter before it goes to the town council? Or is that liability that you,
I guess I'm not sure what's being
whatever
suggested.
the letter their attorney drafts, do you see it before it goes to our town council?
If they send it to me, I will, and I'd certainly be happy to
Just
communicate.
another,
Yeah,
Set of eyes on
so
it.
he was here, he heard what we were proposing. We'll absolutely send it to Jay.
can you put that in as a?
Yeah, you can put it in as a condition if you want. I mean, it's going to go to town council.
But it's just less
Anyway.
confusion now.
And would you be shading that whole area like Jay was saying? Okay.
But I'd be happy to communicate to the board once I see it, to send a communication to the board as to whether or not it meets the intent of what was discussed here this evening, as well as the requirements of the ordinance. I'd be happy to do that.
Great.
No, that's,
So basically,
What-
what's
what
going
you're
to
here for.
happen here is I'm going to have Morgan call Jay and go over it and review it together, and then they're going to go to town council. That's typically what's done.
Okay.
That's the way that I would do it. That's not the way everybody would do it, but that's the way I would do it.
I'm glad he's not out of the loop. I'm-
Yeah, that
okay. Perfect.
what's the problem with this page? Drainage.
As a condition, Lou Karen's notes will be added to as a condition of approval, as we stated. Also, the other, I would also make sure that that's noted, and I'm sure it will be, the other easements for the drainage are on there. That they specify what those are for as a condition of approval.
And that's already in the plan, as you said.
And those are on town council as well.
Okay. And those will go to town council. That will be a condition to be approved. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, are we still in the middle of a motion?
Well, there is a motion on the table.
Because there was there were other things that were brought up outside of this that don't have anything to do with the
Okay.
the deed restrictions, but there were other just questions on the plans.
But it was during the discussion. We got the discussion going. So I'm glad it came up. You brought it up. So it's all gonna be part of the record.
I just think it's too early to approve it yet. We haven't discussed everything.
Okay. In terms of, what do you mean in terms of discussing?
Well,
everything?
there was one thing, and maybe you'd already been told about it, but we noticed that one of the abutters' names were incorrect on the plans.
Okay.
Yeah, I have that.
Not sure if Joan had said that.
Map 18, lot 45 is incorrect.
The notices were correct.
The notices are correct, so if you
Yeah.
send me an email, I can send you the correct. all
Which
that.
which lot is it?
It's 123.
It's across Hillcrest on the corner there.
Map 16, lot 45 is now Point and Val-I. I better notice this is right, Val-I and DG. I
Is that
think.
Robin's house?
Yeah,
But that's changed hands so much.
That's
I mean,
what,
and
It's-
I've spoken to them. They've gotten the notification.
notice.
Yes, it was
The
just on the
notice-
plan I noticed. was
Oh.
incorrect.
Well, we don't usually recheck a butters after it's been
Well,
notified.
just
We can update that, sure.
update the plan, that's all.
Yeah, that. And then there had been talk, Troy talked about sidewalk potentially to try to connect the bike path.
Okay.
Did he talk to you about that?
Did you want to respond to
Bring that
that?
up, or-
What about the bike path?
There was just an idea from the town that it would be nice to have a sidewalk from the Firefly Way connecting to the bike path or to this corner here, so that it's in the right of way, I believe he was saying.
So but this is a DOT road, so I don't know that we would have the right to do that.
That is true.
So I think that's beyond our
Yeah.
sort of regular scope, right?
It's not impossible to request it, but it would need DOT approval in the right of way.
Okay. Well, of course, I mean, it's the applicant, the one that, I mean, we could request it, I guess, but
Is it somewhere in the regulations that that's part of a requirement of a open space subdivision?
No, not part of the
well,
requirement.
I mean, it
was
does, I mean,
just
it mentions something about recreation trails and access, public access and stuff. I think that's probably what you're. I think there
It's
is
just
something in
been,
there about that.
as part of master plan and discussions that we've had on previous projects as new things are being developed to try to connect those, those roads, like how Pinecrest is lacking sidewalks, even with developments having people walk on the side of the road. So it was just something that we
did that just come up tonight?
wanted to request.
Passive non-motorized trails and recreation uses, that's 575.7.0. The open space requirements.
If you own the land, but you
So
don't own
they
the
could
land,
build it if the town had the funds to do
that
it later.
belongs to the
or you
state.
Built
You
this
cannot dictate what can go on there.
It's got to be 6 feet, right, to be.
If it was part of the subdivision where you had a right of way.
No, it doesn't have to be 6 feet.
Good.
3.
No,
But when you don't, I don't see how that can apply.
It's got to be 5 minimum for handicap.
They don't own that land. Where Firefly Drive is, or Firefly Street,
It would be in
that's a
the,
separate,
it would be
that's
in the
not your
public right
land,
of way.
right? Does that?
That's a
there's-
DOT
That's a
jurisdiction.
Well, I know the
yeah.
road is that, but that's not your land, that wooded area, right? You're behind the woods, right? There's a piece of land in there that's not theirs.
But you'd also have to pay us to design it.
The corner there?
Through the
You know how
DOT.
Hillcrest is Hillcrest and
Just put put a 5-foot easement.
That was
There's
on the
public
sub-
right of way, but other than that,
Yeah, but my mother's got landscaping right there.
Firefly is going to be.
Pretty close to the road.
They don't own that land in here. These trees aren't there.
it's right here.
Right at the edge of the right of way, so we don't-
I thought they didn't own the trees going over
people
to Gilchrist. You know,
really.
that was behind some of the trees and they didn't own that property.
No, this part, this is what.
This, it
No, I'm not
does.
talking this, I'm not talking,
So
not
if
talking
we
here, over
own
here.
this,
See
they
what-
can
see
push
down here?
5 feet off.
This over here. I don't think they own
No,
some of this.
I just heard mention of this, just a
Oh,
sidewalk
that
here,
portion,
just in
yes.
front of
Okay, where
map
that White House
15,
is
lot
today,
14.
the existing home.
the
I see what you're
existing
saying.
home to connect it,
Is
to
there a-
connect the subdivision to the bike path. And that would just be going along with the
It's not a
master
bad
plan of the town.
amenity for the subdivision that they have access to there. So we put a 5.
The bike path's on the other side of Albuquerque.
One thing we'd have to do
Yeah.
is we'd have to probably get.
Yeah, we would, I mean,
It's a crosswalk.
crosswalk
Just
to
trying to
the,
get the fourth intersection.
Handicap
the-
ramp.
you know,
We'd have to do
over
handicap.
here at Town Hall.
That would probably be
Right
the
into
easiest.
that.
Is there a crosswalk across Hillcrest?
No.
Okay.
Is there? Yeah, there is
I
one.
think
Yeah, there
across
is.
Albuquerque.
Not
Across Albuquerque,
Hillcrest.
not Hillcrest.
It goes Albuquerque and it goes west, east, then it go across Hillcrest on the other side.
Want to zoom in on it right here
So-
on Google, right?
So I guess.
Not on the west side.
We just give them an extra
Yeah,
5.
Al-
foot
Albuquerque.
Ramps now for, you know, the college ramps and.
We have to build a ramp.
We could all just run outside and tickle.
easement. I would think it's an amenity to subdivision to get the people out there. Go across there.
So what do you guys can decide? Cost about 10, 15.
Between 10 and 15,000. Yeah, I don't think we have any problem with drainage.
I mean, what do? You put this sidewalk right through the driveway?
Yeah, but it'd just be 5 feet off this line. Okay, right off that line.
Right, yes, that White
And
House.
just give a 5-foot easement on that lot.
So you're talking from here.
I wouldn't take nothing.
Because right now you
We're
do
not gonna
see
design it, we're just gonna build a sidewalk out there.
Nothing in here.
Right, it would connect them, that way it would allow that subdivision to easily get to the conservation land.
Granite curb?
So if we keep the cost down and give you your sidewalk, okay? If we, along the property line, right on this property line, put a 5-foot easement in front of this lot to put the sidewalk in. Okay, so it's on the lot. We give an easement off of that lot. And we can just build a 5-foot sidewalk without going through all the design. Okay, and that's pretty much how a lot of Albuquerque sidewalk was built, without much design. Okay, that would give you the sidewalk, just so we don't have to spend the money with the engineer. We're gonna go and build a sidewalk that's gonna work.
Sure.
No,
So-
That is-
it would
So-
be, maintenance of that would fall on the town.
Yes, and this was, at least I heard about it through Troy, so, or that's what Joan had said, it was Troy's idea, also, so I believe that would mean they were supportive of it.
Do we have authority to make that decision or do we need feedback?
Yeah, well, any side, if we put it in the right of way, it's gonna be up to the town to maintain it. Once we build it, we're gonna build the road and the town has to maintain it. So it's all part of whatever gets done, the drainage that gets approved, after it's approved and done, the town maintains it. It's all part
And
of
this could be done even after we approve the plan the way it is now, and he can come back and give us an easement and go for it. It doesn't have to be now. The selectmen, and I'm gonna say, I'm not speaking for them all, but they may not want to agree to it, okay? To do it, okay? Because it's another maintenance thing that they have to deal with for 18 homes, you know? Where everybody, in every street that we got in town, they walk out to the end of the street and they walk down the side now. So the sidewalk on Albuquerque is on a different side. It's on one side and the other streets don't come out on that side. So really, it's a nice thing, but it's not a needed thing. Okay?
But you are open to offering it. You can let the board know, right? Would you write a letter to them? Or I don't know how that would work. Someone has to
Well,
make
yeah,
a
I
decision,
mean,
right?
we can certainly make it, you know, part of the approval, subject to maybe review by, I don't know, the Board of
Well, I
Selectmen.
think we could show it in our plan, and if the easement isn't accepted by the town, then we would just not build the sidewalk, and the easement would never be created.
Right.
Yep. It would never be conveyed to the town, and the sidewalk couldn't be built for liability reasons without the easement. So.
Right.
And it's not affecting anything because it's in the 50-foot setback anyway, so it's just an extra 5-foot easement there.
Coming off the piece of land that the house is on now. That's all it's saying.
But it's only an easement, so.
Yeah, so it's only, no different than anything else.
Just giving town an easement for a sidewalk.
There's talk about putting sidewalks up, and that's, Pinecrest. We're gonna get into a lot of that, okay? That's another whole subject matter, because everything's different through there.
As I told these guys, I agree with you that I think it's a good amenity for the subdivision to have the sidewalk.
Okay, yeah, I think it'd be, yeah, at least, like you said, as an easement, and then decide down the road if the town wants to.
If the selectmen don't let us build it, they don't let us build it.
Sure. Okay.
It's gonna, yeah, they have to be
Thank you
subject to approval.
Okay.
You gotta be subject to the
Helping us
board,
through
that's all I
that.
can say.
It's about 250 feet of sidewalk roughly, so it's not a long run, but
It's pretty flat. Can do it in concrete.
we might be able to get some. Yeah, we might be able to get some
We don't make
asphalt.
So is there anything else, any other concerns? Or
Nope, that was it.
Those are the ones, okay.
I can talk to many people, I think.
So we can make that a condition of approval if that, subject to the Board of Selectmen, allow that, to happen. But certainly, we could say like encourage, the build construction of the sidewalk or conditioned on.
Well, I think the condition would just be that we'll update the plan
Update
to
the
show
plan
it,
to show it.
and that just starts the process. And if it gets kicked by the Board of Selectmen, it gets.
That's-
We've done
yeah,
our
it's-
part.
Again, it's conditioned on that, so. right.
Yep.
Let's see. So do we have everything that, all the conditions that,
I believe we do. You have the deeds,
we have the deeds, we have
Have-
the Lou Karen's,
Luke Aaron's reports, and on the drainage,
yeah.
on the
drainage
plans,
easement.
you have the easement requirements, they're gonna be done on that one, the deeds. And this easement here is not gonna be subject to the conditions of the approval of the plan, because it's a separate matter all by itself. You can note it on the plan with a separate drawing, okay?
And state permits.
And state permits are required.
That's it. You got them all listed?
Paid and Mylars.
And all fees are paid. and
Standard
mileage
conditions.
Standard
are
conditions.
You writing that down?
Got it.
placed. Okay, so that is the motion for approval, and a motion's been made. We had a second.
Second.
We have discussion.
Mhm.
All right, if everyone's in agreement, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 7-0-0. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
we wish you the best of luck, and
We'll be back.
I'm sure you will. After these messages. Thank you for coming in, and
In 2 cases, this has been a long night. Don't go by the clock, it's wrong.
What?
that's true, you're right.
Don't go by the clock, it's wrong.
But the clock has been a really long night.
Doesn't feel like
There's no one tall enough to reach it here in the town hall.
Just wait, what, 6 months?
That's what I do. At least in my car.
I do the same.
So the next item on the agenda, moving on, committee reports. Are there any reports from any committees? Yes, Tim.
Heritage Commission, there is no update. We didn't have our meeting. NRPC, the next meeting is December 18th. I look forward to going. You're going to go as well? December 18th?
Yeah, I'll definitely go. I don't know. Do I have to go in front of the Board of Selectmen to get
To be appointed, yeah.
to be appointed?
Yes.
So we're not there yet. That I mean, I'll
You can show
go.
us
I just
public.
won't be on the
Yeah.
committee.
I think as I recall, the planning board did recommend your appointment to the,
Yeah.
to the board. So if you're not official by that point, you can come anyway.
Okay.
You learned.
I don't know how it gets that gets disseminated to the Board of
I
Selectmen.
will ask the board to make sure it's on the next agenda.
Yeah, just put it on the agenda and have them, they'll probably give, Troy will maybe give you a call or something. You
Okay.
can come in to the next meeting of the Board of Selectmen and they can take care of that.
Yep, and I have one more. I have very good news for the Litchfield Historical Society. The 1851 Old Litchfield Town Hall, the 1924 Aaron Cutler Memorial Library, the 1930 Litchfield Grammar School, the 1958 Old Litchfield Fire Station, and the 1844 Litchfield Presbyterian Church were passed by the state to be on the New Hampshire Historic Register.
Oh, very nice.
Very nice. It's wonderful.
And that's it. I will give you this note. I have to read this to you after. There you go. You want me to write down New Hampshire Register?
No, no.
Okay.
It was on Facebook. You didn't get it?
You must have missed it. I actually attended the last
Terrible.
meeting of the NRPC as well.
Terrible.
Maybe going
One
to
of
the
my
one in
weaknesses
December.
is being good.
The Conservation Commission is meeting this Thursday at 7 PM here in Town Hall. And there hasn't been anything from the Lower Merrimack Local River Advisory Committee. We haven't met. We haven't had any big projects, so.
One thing, the Conservation Commission is meeting November 7th, but in the back room because the Budget Committee will be.
Okay, oh, that's right, the Budget Committee or the school board or someone usually has this room. Approval of the 10/15/2019 minutes. Did anyone have an opportunity to look at those and have any questions? And if there's no questions, we can.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay.
Seconded?
I have a motion, I have a second. Do I have discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstained, I'm going to abstain.
So am I.
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there.
So, motion carries. What is this?
At least I did it right.
Four. What is it? 520? No, I'm sorry, 502. 502. All right, my math is off. Okay. Let's see here. Things we have. I lost my place. I'm sorry. I think it's any other business. Is that the next one? Yes, go ahead.
Just more for Joan. On our website here, the agenda, when we see everything, can we put back the application hearing process checklist and the plan review process?
It should be there on the.
I don't,
On the site?
I don't see it there, but it is, if you, I'm going to give you this back in, you know how you can, if you look at the May 7th, 2019, you'll see the links there.
So what is it,
If I type in, I'll give it to you here.
checklist?
Yeah, application, the hearing process checklist. And then the planning board basics bylaws.
Okay.
I'll give you this before I leave. In case someone has to run a meeting again.
Just in case.
We have a roadmap.
Joan, you can see Troy, he has the list of the registry stuff, everything. He's got all the application that went up to the state. Okay? Troy has
What
those
application?
for the historical buildings, all the list of names for you.
Oh, I have it right here, thanks.
Okay, good.
So they were all approved?
All approved.
Excellent.
I did want to,
Question from the floor. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. There was a question from the floor.
Yeah.
Are you
Just turned around
folks? Hi, are you folks here for something or?
I just wanted to ask a question.
You can come forward and we won't bite you, I promise.
I didn't see, but I'm not used to this. I'm used to school board meetings.
It's okay.
So I teach at the middle school, and we have
Just say your name, please.
Robin Corbeil. I also live at 4 Smith Court. We have 4 robotics teams that were given a project or challenge for their competition this year, and that was to identify a location in their community and make a plan to improve it. And as an effort to teach the students about how Litchfield works, I said to them, why don't we go to the town website? Let's see what other meetings are there, what you can do. And your meeting was one that came up, and I had a group that wanted to come and present to you. And so they were going to come tonight. Thank God that they didn't, because they wouldn't have gotten here in time. It would have been interesting for them to hear some of this. But is that an appropriate forum for them to come to? And is there a procedure that they should follow in order to do that?
It's a very good question. And I actually never been asked about that before.
You're meaning having them just say the process work here?
They, as part of their competition, they have to design robots and run boards. But another thing they have to do is they have to solve a problem. So they have to create a poster board. They have to come up with something that's about 2.5 minutes long, can go up to 5 minutes, where they present the problem, the solution, some research that they've done, and some people that they've shared it with. And so in the past, we've shared it with all sorts of different people, but because they're doing all this building and planning for the community, in theory, not really, so we don't need permits or anything like that for it, the appropriate place, I think, in Litchfield for them to bring that to would be selectmen, planning board, recreation committee. We kind of looked at the list. One is school board. And I've never brought kids to anything other than school board meetings to present. Normally they present to administration, they present to professionals in the environment. So they might present to an engineer or something like that, that we can get them in contact with. But I kind of thought that because they're 7th graders, that this is a learning process for them to speak in front of a board, but I'm not sure that that's an appropriate forum for them. So I stopped in today because I was coming home from school. And I said, well, let me see what this is. And I didn't find an agenda, so I wasn't really sure how things work.
I spoke with you
I spoke with you earlier today because we're looking at the firehouses.
Our community design chapter about the Darrow Pond, things that we came up with. I didn't mention about, this area, but just to give them some ideas. Because it's supposed to be, they're understanding the process of how it works. Whatever idea they come up with, it could match us or not. So,
Well, they have
public
some, like Darrow
information.
Pond is one, the fire station is one, and then they have a lighting project along the walking path. That is another one that the kids have come up with. And again, these are 7th graders, so they're not going to have plans like what you see here, and not be near the detail. But again, it's about exposing them to professional environments and showing them what the opportunities are and what the process is, I think, so that they understand it.
I think it would be appropriate if the board's willing to entertain it. And I think just a note, indicate just expressing interest. I think Joan we could find a slot in an agenda coming up. If the board's willing to entertain it.
I think that's
fine.
But we put
Go
them
for it.
first.
Yes. I mean, it would be good for them to stay and watch a little bit, but just understanding.
So is the idea they would present their project?
Yeah, they'll just come with like a trifold poster board. They might have a model
Presentation.
and they will present it to you.
That's
And
good.
they'll ask you if you have any questions about their project, so that you would have the opportunity to ask them some questions, like where did you come up with this idea, those type of things. And then they would take that feedback back. They're currently getting ready to compete this Saturday and then the following Saturday. If they move on from those qualification rounds, they would go to states, which is in December, the first week in December. So it's a nice thing for them to do between qualifier and states if they pass qualifiers. If not, they may want to come share it with you. There's a couple young ladies on the team who really like their idea. And you may not get the whole team, you may, depending on parent.
So these are hypotheticals that they're.
They are,
Okay.
yeah. So they were the problem they were charged with is find something in your community that you think you could improve, and then come up with a plan for improving it.
Right.
Now they're very basic plans.
So then we would just treat it as someone coming in here and critique it and look at it and make it.
You're just listening to kids who might someday be adults that sit in front of you at some point, and just giving them a little eye into
Presentation.
how the town runs, right? That if you did want to do something in the town, you would come to the here, you would go to the select, this whole thing back and forth. There's a whole bunch of people that would clearly have to go to, but they don't know that. I don't know that. So I just think it's a nice way to educate the kids about the process of government in our town, I guess is, and selectmen, I think we're going to try to reach out to them also and see if we can get at least one of the teams in front of them. So Do you normally meet on Tuesdays?
We meet on the first and third Tuesdays of the month.
So every other, okay, so the next one is something like maybe the 17th. I think that's the 19th. The girls said to me that they were planning on coming on the 19th if they could. And if that's okay.
We have nothing coming in.
I have nothing. Yep, sure.
And it should be something under like 20 minutes. I mean, it could be under 10 minutes, just depending how much you enjoy the conversation with the students and what they present. And so they should probably plan on arriving here at 7. It starts.
Yes.
Yeah, we start usually promptly at 7. So.
Okay, so that would be perfect. I'll try to get them here at 7:45, and hopefully they'll have something to share with you.
So you
Great.
you teach
Great,
robotics.
thanks.
Thank you.
You're teaching robotics, but you're trying to teach them some civics as well, or are you going to
What-
try to implement some of their ideas?
I don't know. I just think it's the next step to solving the problem,
So they're
right?
doing the
The problem is
analysis.
you see something in your community that you want to fix, and you come up with a solution, whether it's engineering or whatever, that they came up with a solution. Well, then how do you take the next step? You can't just go and stick lights on the walking path. You can't just go and change the sand out at
Right.
Terra Pond. You have to follow some steps along that line.
Lighting, to do something, if they want to improve the pond, is environmental reasons, you got to follow certain rules. Those things, or you want to get into a lighting program. Even our own parking lot out here needs lights.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you want to look at the front section, how you can deal with that. Yeah, this is
Yeah, and
Perfect.
it's just for them to understand
Yeah.
that you even exist, that in their town that they live in,
Yeah.
that there's a board
Yeah.
that's in charge of planning
Yeah.
all the growth and development in the
Yeah.
town. I guess that's what you guys, I'm assuming that's what you do, but just introducing them to. So it's a little bit of civics, but it's anything we can throw at them, and they seem to
Great.
want to come.
So not to be scared, we welcome it.
Yeah, I just
We're excited to see them.
to make sure that, and it gives you an opportunity to see the 7th graders that would be hopefully your residents at some point.
seventh
So-
grade. This
There's-
is better.
Yeah, they're 7th graders.
This
There's a-
this is gonna be good.
There's 4 teams of them. They got lots of energy. But again, it's good exposure for them. So if you will allow us to come, I
Sure.
know that at least one of the team has expressed interest in, a couple of.
We would be happy for you to come.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's one thing I had under other business, and that is the email I got from Troy Brown about the capital planning committee. I guess there's a warrant article,
There's a CIP thing.
CIP, to create a CIP.
Committee, separate with each department, correct?
They're going to be looking for a member or members of the planning board to be on that committee, since the CIP is, I think by statute, under was it the planning boards?
Correct.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's something that's important.
Now, you
and
said they're not coming with a warrant article. You said something about a warrant
It
article.
says see attached warrant article.
Send a copy of a warrant article
Copy of
from
a warrant.
previous warrant.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that Troy sent to me.
Okay,
So I think he sent it to
Forming
me.
a CIP.
Yeah.
So think about that, I guess, and we'll probably have discussions about it.
Technically, the CIP is supposed to be done by the planning board, but a few years back when the, I don't know, be politically correct, but there was a little friction between the board and the board at the time. So they took over the CIP because they didn't think the board was doing their thing. But it was about what was in it. Okay, that's all I can say.
Yeah.
Okay, so technically the CIP is controlled by the planning board by statute.
Yeah, right.
That I do know.
Yeah.
Okay, so the board may want to say that's nice, but we're going to be more involved,
Yeah.
which could be something that we ought to send back.
Sure.
Okay,
Absolutely.
or else refer to the RSAs and decide and help them. Okay, just saying it, guys. One of those I love you ones.
So it was brought to my attention, and I know I may have brought it up at one of the meetings, and I know that this was a discussion that we had many moons ago on the planning board, and it kind of got dropped, and it never really. Until now, it's resurfaced again. It's ugly head again. Reared its ugly head again. So
What's needed?
Is that a one-person
yeah,
thing, or is that we all do it as a group?
Well, it's what Troy has asked for is, a volunteer representative from the planning board.
Right. Because there are different members of different boards or departments.
He's following the flow of the requirement, okay, to get members from each department, and only one outside citizen group. That's questionable in my mind. Okay, but that's what they're talking about right now.
So it's not something we'd do if we didn't have anything on the 19th. It's not that something we would, as a group,
No,
would
this
discuss.
this wouldn't
No,
be
this
an
is-
agenda
okay.
item.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Just agenda.
Jay, is there anything you'd like to add? I know, run any other business or anything about the transportation chapter? or anything
No,
about-
but I would just imagine, I think the 19th sounds like
A good
we're gonna
day
have
for a
good thing,
work-
so that'd
or
be
a
a
good
good day
time
to
for a
do that,
workshop.
and also a good day to do a workshop on potential ordinance changes.
Yes.
That's we do need to
Yeah, I
do
wanted
that.
to ask you about the signs. We keep getting sign applications, and if we need to, remember, we've talked about that before, the electronic signs. We
It
need
was
to
one
put
of the things that we
together
talked
something.
about. So we have language around a potential amendment on that, so we should talk about that on the 19th.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else?
I got one, I don't want to drag this out too long, but so I still don't feel like we're at a place where we know what we're doing with respect to Mr. Charbonneau and his, what he said about Mel's. Because our last meeting, we talked about there was going to be some kind of directive to determine if they are in compliance or not. And I don't know if that's.
I can give you a minor heads up. It's in, the town council is aware of it. Appears that Rick does not agree with what's been done in the past.
Mhm.
As you can tell, he doesn't. What he said, not to speak. He did it at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, but I wasn't voted not to say anything. I have been quiet because town council has been handling it, and the code enforcement and the people have been going out there to look for violations. And the purpose, and we issued the cease and desist order, which you know about, and then the corrections are what town council feels that we need to have done. So there's still some discrepancies or differences of opinion. But that's the next step, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay?
So is the planning board going to take on an action to come up with their own opinion, or are we just?
I really think we got to refer this as we're legal right now, okay?
I think based on the communication that we received earlier, though, I think it'd be prudent if we do want to discuss it, that it be on the agenda.
Yeah.
And noticed.
Correct.
It's just, I don't think, I haven't looked at it objectively. I've heard one side of the story.
And we could certainly do that.
Yep.
And if that's the will of the board. We could put this on an upcoming agenda so that we
Well,
have.
and it sounds like counsel for Mel's wants to come in. We should invite them in to address the list of deficiencies that Mr. Charbonneau presented to us. I mean, frankly, I don't place a lot of merit in an argument that a public meeting is improper to discuss whatever comes up at a public meeting, and that somehow infringes their due process rights. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's a public meeting. If they want to come, they can certainly come, and they should address if there are discrepancies with the plan that was approved by the board. If that's in fact the case, then they should address that. And if we have to have a show cause hearing for them to do that, that's fine. But invite them in and say, why don't you just come in and explain to us what your side of the story is.
I mean, we could do that on the 19th. I think there's still time.
Yeah, that could.
Can we familiarize ourselves again with the notes on that? We should, right?
We can make sure that
Have it posted or is it in
we
somewhere in the town hall?
we will pull the relevant information on the conditions of approval.
Okay.
We went through 11 months on that, so needless
I know,
to
but
say,
don't the
the
plans
record
have the
is.
final notes on them?
Yes, we do,
You can
and
look
we
at just
have,
the notes on the plans, right?
we do have that.
Can we have that? on?
We have that, and we have the condition of approval, and we have the minutes from, the meeting that it was approved.
But was there anything discussed at the time that this plan was approved about the noise and the shooting off cannons, and was that at all discussed?
They have fire marshal approval on that, but that was not discussed here.
They have fire marshal approval to shoot off cannons?
It wasn't a cannon, it was
It's
the
not a cannon,
propane.
It's a 55-gallon drum
Okay.
loaded with propane, and they hit a button and it.
And they can do that up until midnight? Boy, if I was living in that neighborhood, I wouldn't be
that
too
was
happy, I can tell you right now.
We went on that site walk. Remember the hay?
Yes.
There was A through M and
Midnight.
right up. And we had propane tank,
Yeah, no, I
propane,
understand.
propane, and 7 minutes per ride, 7 minutes per hay ride. If you had 4 or 5 per ride, it's going off. a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of
But
issues
Rick saw the
discussed,
same
but-
things.
But noise, the noise issue that was raised this evening was
Remember that?
not
Eighth round.
discussed as part of the site plan at that time.
Okay.
Did he say in the email, did he say he's coming in with another site plan?
They want to amend it.
Okay.
I think what we should do is have
Based
them
on,
both come in. So what I
Yeah.
want is to have Andy Perlman here with the people from Mel's, having Rick Charbonneau and Attorney Hollis, and just basically we can
Yep. I agree.
have the
Right. On the 19th, you want to try
the
that?
19th, compliance.
And we'll notify,
I'm in the middle
we'll
of this,
notify
I
all
got
the
to
obstructions.
finish.
We'll have, we can have, and then
You will?
everyone will be
Yeah.
here. We can have a.
Is that enough
discussion on
notice with the
merits
holiday?
and, you know,
That's a good idea.
Holidays are
Good idea.
Yeah.
So if their schedule allows for it, it's based on their schedule, whether they can come in or not, right?
Well, we have to find out if they can come in before
Right,
we notify.
and then the
Well, the
holidays. a
board, I
week
mean, I
later,
think,
right?
I think that the board can choose to hold it and they
Yeah, we
can
can
come
choose
or
to
not
hold it.
come.
And it'll be a public.
That's right.
If they don't come, it's just gonna be.
Right. They don't come, they don't come.
They'll come.
But
Don't
at least
complain.
we posted that it's a public hearing, and
remember, it's in litigation,
I understand that.
True,
okay? So
yeah.
town council may have to respond back to us on how we want to do it since it's a
Good
litigation.
point.
I mean, is that even pertinent to us now? I mean, do we officially know that it's under litigation other than just?
Well, they're
Well, I
going to the
understand.
ZBA next week, right? 13th, going to the ZBA.
We'll see what happens after that meeting.
You know what that's for?
Nope.
Well, maybe if we could get a word to town council and just let them know that we
Maybe we
intend to
should-
do this so that they have an idea of what's up.
Well, maybe we should speak to town.
Town council first, and then
I'll reach out tomorrow.
see what their feeling is on that, if they think this is,
Jay will talk to town
Yeah.
council
but I think, and then go from there.
and let me know.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
Second?
Discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion carries 700. Thank you for joining us and have a good evening.